Hello, word nerds! Happy Sunday and welcome to our weekly live chat. This week we are talking about kind of our personal writing journeys, ours and yours, how it's evolved over time, how we're feeling about writing and publishing right now, maybe getting into a little bit about future plans or how we see it going. Not going to call it goals, just vibes. Let us know in the comments, kind of if you have any initial, just off the cuff, how are you feeling about writing right now? And then we'll dig a little deeper as we go. But I can try to find an easier opening question than how do you feel about writing right now? Okay. How did your writing go this year compared to how you thought it was going to go? Your writing journey. So I will start with Leah because she didn't make a noise when I asked the question.
She kept her dread inside.
I did.
And that was her mistake.
Well, I feel like I always never accomplish what I want to accomplish when it comes to writing. So I always want to be further along than I am. But I was just pulling up a document that I have where I've titled it My Writing Journey because otherwise I forget when I started projects and stuff like that. The last time I updated it was in September of this year when I closed out querying my book. So I'm proud of myself for getting to the point of okay, you've shot your shot with that one. So yeah, I feel good about that, but I really wish I was further along in my current draft because I made the goal of finishing it in December, but I have way too many library books that are checked out that I have to read because they're due.
They're gonna take them back.
They're gonna take them back. So yeah. So I'd say, the usual of not being where I want to be, but also trying to recognize, hey, you made progress.
Yep, totally fair.
Yeah.
Megan, how about you?
Yeah, good question mark. I think as far as publishing is concerned, I, on any given year, feel like that scene in Tangled where she first comes out of the tree and she's like, this is amazing. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I love this. I'm never going to stop. I'm stopping in 5 minutes. So yeah, I have my bingo card right here. My big goal was to start querying my vampire book, and I have started doing that, which is exciting. I probably could be a little more proactive in this leading up to everything shutting down season, but there's some stuff I want to go fix. So,
I think things are basically shut down.
Yeah. So I'm trying to be very cool and chill about it. So yeah, I keep trying new ideas, feeling inspired, feeling uninspired, just fun things, projects you think are dead, then suddenly you have more ideas for projects you think are the next one. Suddenly you're like, I actually hate this. So yeah. Good question.
So
Mark.
yeah.
So yeah.
Kyra?
Yeah. 2023 for me has been a year, personally and writing wise. So I can't say exactly where I was at the end of 2022, but I think it was pretty bad in terms of my feelings about writing. I think I was very much in kind of a 50% everything's meaningless, I'm going to quit, and 50% everything's meaningless and I'm going to keep going harder. Maybe longtime viewers would know that is how I roll. And then I got an agent, and that has been lovely. So it's easier to be more optimistic when things are going well, and things have been going as well as things usually go in writing. So I'm on sub, which I feel overall fairly calm and not thinking about it a whole lot, but it is a little oh, I'm on sub and this book could be dead soon. But yeah,
it's not a great feeling.
Yeah.
At least when you're querying, it's well, maybe this will come up again later.
Yeah. So, and it is on the whole, I am vastly less bothered by being on sub than querying, just personally. There are moments where I'm like, oh, there's not a whole ton of editors out there that we are committed to. You can't rack up no's quite the way you can in querying. But that being said, sub is fine and mostly quiet for me right now. And at least it's a new stage of rejection for me personally. So yeah, beyond that, I have slowed down a ton. I was writing at like a frankly unsustainable pace. And now that I'm saying this out loud, like slowed down a ton still is like a pretty productive year. I finished off about the second half of a book at the first quarter of 2022. Then spent quite a bit of time revising the book that went on sub this year. I've started drafting something new for Nano and then quit Nano. So I have about 10,000 words, 20,000 words. I got to 20K of something new drafted. And I'm also working on revising something with Megan. So that's still like a good amount of activity. And I think I'm still trying to figure out how to balance my creative life with the rest of my life. And maybe it's getting better.
That sounds like a pretty solid year. There's a lot to be proud of there.
Yeah. All in all, pretty good year.
Yeah. When you said writing at a frankly unsustainable pace, I am still being burnt out from that. I definitely hoped to get back into writing this year and did not at all. I wanted to do Nano, and then there was just nothing I was excited to write, and I knew I would end up just kind of resenting the process, which was where I wanted to be. So, you know, still here, still like talking about it. We'll see how next year goes. I am hoping to bounce back sooner rather than later. But that's where I'm at.
Nice. I liked Nicole said something that I think resonated with my experience too, was that what I remember most about this year is that I came up with a lot of ideas. The ideas are not as far along as I'd want them to be, but writing still excites me. In short, I still want to write.
That's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is something that happened for me this year. Is I started having ideas for stories again. Never quite found the like, okay, let's flesh this out time or energy, but that is always the first part of the process. I never want to like sit down and write. There's a specific story I'm going to need to want to write. So
yeah, I was in like such a writing slump for years, starting in 2020 when everyone hit their writing slumps, and it was just this barren wasteland of ideas. And that is like still possible to get out of if anyone's there. Like it will pass, but it is scary when you're like, oh, there's just nothing. Like, what am I going to do if I just never have another idea?
Yeah. At the end of the day, ideas rarely end up being the problem long term. So
no. Yeah.
And as I start reading it more, I think that'll start bouncing back a bit more of like just engaging with media that I am excited by is always the most inspiring. So
yeah.
It's been kind of nice for me because I was working at such a not good pace, like a too much pace for so long. I kind of hit a point where I had a pretty substantial backlog of projects. So it's actually been really, really wonderful where like I'm kind of for the first time in a while, not like anyone was ever like forcing me to do any of this, but like for the first time in a while, I feel like I'm at a place where I'm like, I don't need to be really heavily producing. My agents asked for like, hey, what are we going to work on next? And I sent them like, I had a list of like 4 books that were already written in various stages of polish. And it was kind of interesting though, because like when they asked for that, I was like, oh yeah, I got ideas. And then I like sent them like little pitches for the ones that were already written. I was like, I have like 2 ideas for things that I might want to write. And that was like very weird for me. I kind of came up with some more, but yeah, that was like kind of the closest I've been to just like not feeling like I had any ideas left to write. And it's been nice. Like it's been a few months since I did that and just like giving myself space to be a little more chill about it. And also not overthinking market so much. It's just like if I just get in the urge to write something that like I may or may not even try to do something with. And I'm starting to feel like a little bit more of the idea energy coming back.
Yeah. I think that's a huge difference in how selecting my ideas has evolved, is caring less and less and less about market, which in some ways feels like a survival tactic when you've been like not seeing the markers of success that publishing has. It's like, well, how long can you write your second favorite idea because it's more marketable, you know?
Yeah.
And it's all such a crapshoot. Like,
Yeah. It's like the market's going to be moved on by the time you're finished.
right. Well, and I think it's, I don't know, like I don't want to be too like perky inspirational in the other direction either, of like just write the thing and it'll work out, because like I've done that and it hasn't always worked out. But incidentally, the book that got me my agent, and Megan can attest to this, when I was brainstorming it in writing group, that was pitching it as like, this is the most unmarketable thing I have ever written and will ever write. And I think at the time I was brainstorming it, that was true.
It was pre-romantasy, and it was like, this is a fantasy and it's a romance, and the only plot is romance. Which at the time there was no market for that.
Yep.
But then like 3 months later there was.
Right. And it's, you know, again, like that's not always going to work out that way. And it's interesting too, because when I sent off my list of other ideas, the things I had thought were like the most reliably marketable, my agent said like, those are kind of hard sells right now. Like we'll keep them on the back burner, but I don't know anything. And this is coming from someone like, I'm not inside to the extent that like an agent or editor is, but I read a lot and I follow pretty closely. And like, I feel like if I don't have a shot of knowing like what's actually marketable, it's all crapshoot.
Yeah, because like I think we were all kind of surprised at the ideas that they said weren't as marketable. But it was like, really? That's less marketable right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the ones that they said they wanted to hold off on were like the YA contemporary romances, which for me have always been like the bread and butter of YA. Like those have always been like an evergreen. And I don't think they're going anywhere. I think that one will correct itself pretty quickly, but I think the fantasy was selling so like the science fiction fantasy were selling so poorly for a while that they probably oversaturated a little bit. I don't know. But I was quite surprised when they said that.
Yeah. And I'm sure for you too, it's an element of you have 4 of them. So we'll just go down the line.
That wasn't even like all of the books I've got drafted. It was the 4 that I have drafted and like still want to work on. I have like 2 or 3 that are drafted that I like, I don't feel like working on those right now. So I just didn't tell them about them.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird sometimes. Like a friend of mine who's a published author has an agent. They were talking with an editor, and the editor was like, "Yeah, fake dating not really a thing anymore." And I'm like, "No, it totally is. Like, there are so many fake dating books, and like, I love fake dating books. I will read more of them."
If there's no fake dating, how did Ashley Herring like get 2 fake dating in one trilogy?
Right?
That's so funny.
And I think it's still true that sometimes you will write the thing that is unmarketable that just sounds fun, and it will still actually be unmarketable. I got very lucky on this one that like, something was in the water and suddenly everybody wanted romantasy, but I was having a lot of fun writing that book. So and I think even if it hadn't worked out as well as it had, and it might still die because it is on sub, but I had a lot of fun with it. And that matters too.
I'm sure there's something to be said for needing balance. I know when I'm like selecting ideas and trying to move forward with stuff, I have Erin in one ear being like, well, the market says this, and Kyra in the other being like, do you care about the market or do you care about having fun?
Megan and I are enabler friends. We just did each other. Erin's
like
the one who's writing
Angel and Devil Kronk.
Sometimes I've got like two devils on my shoulders. They're both Megan.
Oh, I loved this comment from Joe Catherine. My writing this year, that raccoon trying to wash cotton candy. We also had Cranky Spinster said, struggled over the summer, got it together in the fall. Happy to have handed it off to a development editor last week. So all in all, some success.
Nice.
Yeah. We've also got Tessa here who said, my only writing goal for this year was to fall in love with writing again after being in a writing slump for the past 3 years. I spent this entire year remembering how fun writing is. Also discovered or rediscovered mind mapping in the past week because of school. Game changer for my writing process.
Nice.
Yay.
Think what else is even going on in the writing world? Everyone's closing up shop for the winter. Although I did see Eric Smith saying send anyway.
I did see that
Because
too.
like
Yeah.
3 people won't close up shop.
I'd be interested to hear about maybe any creative endeavors you have that aren't writing, and how, I'm trying to think how to phrase this, how they interact with your writing. So like, do you lean into your other creative outlets if you're struggling with writing, or do they all just kind of slump at the same time? Or what else do you do creatively?
Very little in my case.
That's fine
yeah.
too.
Like writing is my creative outlet, and if I'm not writing, I'm reading books, and if I'm not reading books, then I'm watching TV. So it's just like stories all the time.
I made a lot of friendship bracelets this year. So I have so many beads. I'm going to be making them for years. Like I have enough beads to get me through the apocalypse because they only sell them in jumbo bins.
That's not true. I definitely bought these.
They only sell the ones I like.
That's fair. Mine aren't good.
Yeah, I tried to buy nicer ones the second go around.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because when I went to the concert, all my letters were falling off by the end of the night.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah,
I support. I might just go get a jumbo bin because it turns out I like making and distributing friendship bracelets.
Yeah,
I think that's a part of my life now.
Yeah, I think I haven't had a ton of time for anything that isn't like a 10-minute bracelet because I was in school for part of this year. But I have gotten like more and more into video games. It kind of started last year too, but just finding a lot of joy in storytelling in that form, which is not a form that I would ever be interested in writing for, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
But I do enjoy consuming stories in that form.
So wild to consume stories without any intent of ever. And I say that jokingly, but it's actually legitimately very nice to just be like, no, I'm just going to experience this as a consumer.
Yeah. And honestly, kind of the same with TV shows. I think back when, YA was in its heyday and writing advice was at its peak on the internet, it was hard to even watch TV without being critical. And I am so good at that now. Just no thoughts. I'm just enjoying whatever story they want to tell me.
I claimed that ability.
Oh, I love it.
I'm annoying. My friend begged me to watch this show for years, and I finally started watching it and been talking about it. And I enjoy this show, and even enjoying this show, I'm so nitpicky about it, and I think it's driving the guy who recommended it to me nuts. Tried to get me to watch it for years, and all I can think about is these little narrative things that I would do differently.
Yeah. I do think one of the things I've struggled with is feeling I want a creative outlet that isn't writing, but I don't feel like I'm a crafty person.
No.
I don't want to draw. I would love to be able to draw, but I'm not good at it, and I'm probably not going to go take a class to get better at it. I don't have interest in cross stitch or anything. And so it's well, what is creative that I could do? I'm just gonna go walk circles around the mall with all the old ladies. Like,
I love mall walking.
mm-hmm.
I think my two big ones that I've kind of gotten into, so you can see the embroidery behind me. That's been fun because I'm also not like artsy. I can't draw to save my life, but I can do that okay. And that's been kind of nice because it is also like much less concentrated creative outlet. Like I can kind of do that while something else is going on, like an audiobook or TV in the background. The other very unexpected for me creative outlet that I've been doing for about a year-ish now is this friend, the same one who showed me the show that I'm nitpicking now, asked me to start playing a TTRPG like Dungeons and Dragons, but it's not Dungeons and Dragons, it's a superhero one. And I was like kind of in my yes man era where I was like, I'm gonna say yes to new things and try to obtain some hobbies that aren't writing. And I was very skeptical, and it actually has been like so fun because it gets to like it incites a lot of the things that I really like about writing without being writing. So it's like I still get to do character creation and storytelling, and the fact that it's in this kind of live collaborative setting like poses some really fun challenges. So I've very much been enjoying that and having a really good time with it. For a while, I was kind of like, I feel like this is actually where all my creative energy is going, is into this gameplay. And I've kind of now pulled some of that back and I'm finding ways to kind of balance the two where, yeah, kind of the downside of the collaborative thing is it's like, oh, I don't have complete control over these stories. So I like doing that sometimes, and now I like also having my like little stories that I just write myself, where I am the god of this world, and what I want to happen happens. But I think that's also been like I said, very unexpected. I did not think I would enjoy it, but I do. I did not think I would be good at it, and I'm getting better. So, yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Tessa said, the biggest struggle of my life is letting myself just enjoy something without deciding that it needs to be my life's calling.
I hear you there.
What is casual enjoyment anyway?
Got Andrew here, said this was a rough writing year. I don't think I've written this little in years. I thought I would be more disciplined about publishing in magazines. Nope, didn't hit 50K last month, but next year will almost definitely be better mental health wise. So I assume the writing will follow. Does typically go better during better mental health times, at least for me.
Yeah, same here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I'm depressed and anxious. What? I can't focus?
What could be causing this? Yeah, and like every time I'm surprised too. So.
Surprised Pikachu face, like what?
Yeah.
Fun fact, writing isn't actually fueled by angst.
Nope.
Could have had me fooled in 2011. Yeah, I'm curious. Leah, your current project is adult, right?
It is, yes.
Is it your first adult project that you've written?
It is, yeah. It's an adult fantasy romance, which I'm also writing a throuple in, and I'm like, you like barely wrote romance before, and now you're like, I can write a throuple, and I'm like, So,
I think biting off more than you can chew is like an absolute essential part of writing books.
Yes.
Just constantly being like, I can do this.
Yeah. How hard could it be?
like the one that I shelved was a 3 POV story. I had never written more than 1 POV before, so it's just like every new project I'm like, let's just try something you haven't done before.
Yep. I the project I'm querying is my first adult project. I queried a lot of books before, but they were all YA, and this one's my first adult. And then I was working on drafting like a new single POV adult, which was very different from my book that I'm querying, which had a lot of POVs, which was a unique challenge. And I got bored with the single POV after like 4 chapters, and then just was like, you know what I should do? I should plot one that's 3 timelines.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what we're doing right now, and just seeing how it feels. 3 timelines. How hard could it be?
I think my particular I want to punish myself thing is that like just combining genres that have no business being combined.
Yes.
And just like, this is going to be a sports book and a romance and a fantasy and
Yes.
like they experiment a little with like POVs and like sometimes get out of my comfort zone there. But for me, where it's really at is like, let's put together some genres that have no business being together.
I'm excited. I want it to be like 2 parts to the book. And so that's like the first part you get like past and present, and then the second part you get like present and future.
Oh.
So it's not really like 3 all at once.
Sure.
So it's actually really practical of me to do this.
Oh yeah, of course. The only
Is it,
sensible decision.
another horror.
Yeah. Huh? Yes. It's like an apocalyptic horror.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
I'll tell you more about it off air.
Well, it
It's a
sounds like
pitch
you're
that I'm
excited.
afraid someone else is probably already doing. So, but
We
it's
can
the one
have
that
more
Aaron
than
told
one
me not to write.
apocalyptic
So, yeah. But it's the new year soon.
Oh my
No
goodness.
rules. Then I'll be
Do
quitting for a year. So
I know that we will probably do more like, I don't know, do we do goals anymore?
we're doing a New Year's goals
Okay.
party. So our first chat
Okay.
back, we're gonna do housekeeping really quick before you move on. We've got 2 more chats, and then the 17th is our last chat, and we're gonna hiatus, and then we'll be back on January 7th with goal
My
setting party.
birthday. Oh.
Yes.
Okay, I won't ask about 2024 then. We'll save that for later.
I'm dying to like go into like things that have inspired you this year in your writing and stuff, but I assume that a lot of that'll be the like, it's called the bookish wrap up chat as our last one of the year, but I assume it's also going to be like follow the house
Every
We
flusher.
never meander on this channel. Never.
When have we ever, especially in a chat like this, where we're like, let's just talk about writing, and then in 2 weeks, let's just talk about the year.
So maybe kind of in line with what we were talking about before, what would you say your most fun writing challenge has been? Like way in which you maybe in 2023 stretched yourself or did something a little bit different? Got out of
Every
your comfort-
Sunday, I show up and I talk about writing with people who are writing far more regularly, and I'm doing a great job.
Hell yeah, you are.
You are a pillar of this stage
Yes,
channel, whatever we are.
this community. Oh, that's a really good question.
Okay, wait. Say the question again.
Something in the past year or so, we don't need to stick real strongly to 2023, but something semi recently that you feel has been stretching your creative talents or a little outside your comfort zone that you've done.
gonna need to think for just
Yeah,
a
that's
minute.
fine. I asked the question. I don't know. I did also start writing my first adult book this year,
Hey.
which was, I guess, a little outside of my comfort zone. I don't know. For the most part, it like actually felt like a pretty smooth transition. I wasn't getting that hung up on too many things. There were occasional times where like, oh, I'm writing adult now. Things are different here.
I know. I haven't talked very much about specifics about my experience having an agent and then not having an agent anymore. But this year I like wrote something up anonymously about it that got posted online where I talked like about the whole thing, like almost everything about it. And that was very cathartic. And it was very scary knowing that it was getting put out on the internet. But it was nice. And it was nice to have someone who I didn't know be like, no, I can't believe that happened to you. So that was very fun. As fun as a cathartic event can be.
It was very badass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because thinking about challenges is what had popped into my head for a lot of the word nerds, really, of just at the beginning of the year, felt like there was a lot of a greater amount than normal of just like, oh, the publishing industry. How can I even ever feel hope?
Turmoil. Yeah.
Obviously, things have turned around for Kyra, so that has been I think a good step in the right direction for everybody. Of like, oh, she did it.
Yeah. Yeah. It does feel very much like if one of my friends or writing friends is happy, then I feel happy. And I did have a lot of friends have a lot of success this year, which does make it easier to be like, oh, well, like they did it. I can maybe do it too.
Yeah.
I am kind of cautiously optimistic that some things are moving a little better than they have the past couple of years. And it's hard to say, maybe that's just me like feeling better about my own life, but I do feel like I've also seen recently like people who've been just querying for ages and ages announcing, signing, and we'll see. Like I'm feeling like agents are open a little more, a little longer. Like there's less closures, there's less, I don't know. It's still yucky out there, don't get me wrong, but I'm trying to be like more optimistic than I was a year ago, certainly for myself, but I also think for others.
Yeah.
And I would say about the fact that we haven't yet finished. We have one more part ready-ish to go of the time capsule video we did, Celebrate 10 years, and we still have the last third that we haven't even responded to yet, which is going to be, I think it's got a lot of the like, where do we think we'll be when we open this time capsule? And like we haven't quite looked at that part yet because I feel like there's going to be a lot of, oh, we'll definitely have published books, but it just did not happen. So we're giving ourselves a little more time to make it happen before we look inside the box.
Yeah. I think it was Leah, you said at the beginning of the chat that it's like you find yourself regularly not making the progress you would have hoped you have made. Mm-hmm. And I feel that a lot with publishing goals that are not in my power ever. I'm always like, well, this year I'm going to do everything right that's in my power. I'm going to make no slip ups with the stuff that's in my power. And because of that, everything is going to go great with publishing, which is just this huge, unpredictable beast.
Yeah. I think like when we did the time capsule, like 3 years feels like a long time. In publishing, it's not a long time. So it's just kind
of really not.
There really wasn't a lot of time to get anything done.
Yeah.
Sometime before the next anniversary, we should just film one like another 10 years out. Give us all a decade to actually.
Yeah, give me a decade to get my shit together.
I think part of that too is just this feeling that like a lot of us have been very close to certain milestones for a very long time. And so like 3 years ago, in terms of my skill, I think I was close to many things, but Nope. So yeah, I think it's easier when you kind of recognize that at least skill wise you've reached a certain threshold to be like, well, certainly I just need like a little nudge. But
I do think overall, like, we all feel less hopeless, but like it feels like the general morale has improved on the potential for publishing.
I think so. I know for me, I don't feel like end of last year, early this year, I was starting to feel very like this is as good as I'm gonna get. Like without a publishing professional on my team, like this is the best I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like a few projects that were like, look, here's proof. These are all not significantly worse or better than the other. And I do still feel like that, but I have found a little bit of hope in the fact that I've been looking at an older like a 2-year-old project and realizing like, oh, look, I'm able to find things to fix here, which means I must be a little better than I was then.
Yeah.
Because when I was looking at that project, I couldn't find anything to fix. I thought this was as good as it got. And it is a good feeling to be like, oh, look, I've been able to not just see problems with this thing that I thought was perfect, but also have some solutions in mind.
Yeah, that's always a great feeling when you can see your growth.
Yeah.
And the more advanced you get, the harder it is to see
so
that
hard.
growth. So
Yeah.
And I think some of that is related a little bit to what we were talking about earlier, where I think the natural progression of getting better at writing is that you want to start writing harder things. So in some ways, for me, it's like, this book I wrote 3 years ago really isn't that much worse than, it seems pretty comparable in terms of quality to the one I'm writing this year. But the one I'm writing this year is actually a much harder book to write. And if I tried to write the book I wrote 3 years ago, like it's just not, the ultimate quality is the same, but the skill required to execute to that level is more.
That's a very good point. Kind of similarly, I'm trying hard to phrase this in a way that isn't overly like getting into our next discussion topic, but it's been inspiring seeing more excitement around the reading side of the publishing world of like TikTok is trying so hard to get me back into the Hunger Games, but like seeing people be excited about books again is really inspiring and like adjacent to the fourth wing of it all. But like seeing more of those kind of communities pop up is really nice. And like makes me feel like, oh, people are gonna like keep getting into new book series, and there are gonna be new series that like everybody's reading together, and like we could be heading back in that direction.
My mom texted me last night to ask if I thought she would be interested in the fourth wing. I was like, I don't know, maybe. And she was like, I bought it. Okay.
I like that she texted you after she'd already bought it.
Yeah.
That has really creeped out of the book world.
Yeah. Which I agree is like, it is kind of fun to see people talking about books.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to reread The Hunger Games over Christmas break.
Yeah, I'm definitely contemplating that as well.
Oh my God, I did. So we are trying to read as many of I am trying
also.
to, okay.
You made a goal and I stole it.
Okay. So we're trying to read as many of the Goodreads horror books as we possibly can.
I'm trying to read as many of the Goodreads nominees. Yeah, I'm doing multiple genres.
Yeah.
Continue.
I'm going for horror. September House just came in. I'm furious to report I did not hate How to Sell a Haunted House. I know I have like this longstanding one-sided grudge with Grady Hendrix books. I didn't hate that one. I actually like wanted to finish reading it.
Hey.
I kind of seem to remember you didn't hate Horror Store either.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't hate Horror Store, but I didn't like it.
Okay.
I kind of liked How to Sell a Haunted House. There was still some like it wasn't like a 5-star read for me, but it was such a surprise, and I was pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed it. There was like creepy dolls, haunted house. It was just like a brother and sister and a family story. And I felt like more localized like that. His style worked better for me.
Mm.
So I
Can
didn't
we
hate
talk
it.
about the Goodreads Choice Awards?
Yes.
So they removed some categories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, had a very weird experience going through the Goodreads Choice Awards because, like, I read less this year than I have, but I still have a lot of this year books. I'd only read like 3 of the ones that were nominated in the first round, and 2 of the ones I had read were nonfiction. I had not read a single book in the YA nominations, and that's like my jam, and it was so weird to me. And I don't know if that's like, I've never had that before with the Goodreads Choice Awards, so I don't know if it was them or if it was me.
I would recommend Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute in the YA category. I did read that one and I enjoyed it. But yeah, I would agree. A lot of the ones I'm like, Leah, you read so much YA fantasy, and yet you have read none of the ones on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, I read less this year, but I'm like, surely I would have hit some of these. No, the only ones were like I read 2 of the nonfiction ones. The one with the record on the front that I didn't actually like, and Poverty by America, which I did really enjoy. And then I read Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, which was one of the old adult fantasy noms, but it was just very weird.
Yeah. I think I'd read 2 or 3. Because I'd read Mr. Magic and the Tea Kingfisher one. A House with Good Bones I'd read. But yeah, I was kind of surprised how few I recognized. And then I wondered, like, is part of it that we used to get tons of book recs from Twitter? And
Yeah.
now a bunch of Twitter's gone, and also the horrors, you know?
Yeah, maybe some of it is just that, like, especially in, well, at least again, YA is kind of where I most know anyway. Like, it's not uncommon for me to have adult genres that I don't know any of the nominees, but I feel like there haven't been as many like kind of blockbuster, like everyone's reading this sort of titles. So maybe, I don't know, like.
Not that I've also been interested in reading.
Yeah.
I don't know why I personally like do not like when like sequels are nominated for the Goodreads Choice Awards. I don't know. It just feels like comparing apples to oranges to me for some reason, to compare like, you know, like even for like big name authors, like if it's the first book in a series, sure, put it in there. But for some reason, it's just very weird for me to like
Why is
Hellbent.
a Stephen King sequel
Yeah.
in the
Right.
horror list?
I mean, until very recently, putting Stephen King in the category at all had just meant we knew
Felt
who
like
was going to win the
cheating.
category.
Yeah.
And it is like weird that they got rid of categories. I have no qualms about them adding romantasy. Like I actually think I'm obviously pro romantasy, that I write that, but I know people have, but I think even the people who are not really romantasy fans, it's kind of good for them because it means that then the fantasy genre is.
That was Emma's theory of like, it would have just been the whole fantasy genre and people would have been annoyed at that. So
Right. But it still also doesn't, like, they just got rid of all the kids' books.
It's like,
Yeah.
did we need to cut one to add another?
Right. Well, and
Cut
especially
2?
like it all. So 3, they cut 3
I
of
think
them.
3.
3. Oh,
They
yeah.
also got rid of
Poetry.
graphic novels and poetry. And the graphic
Yeah.
novel one, to me, in some ways, is the one that's the weirdest because that segment of the market has just like skyrocketed.
So is that not
Yeah.
4? Picture book, middle grade?
Picture book and middle grade had been
Oh,
combined,
okay.
which also was like a weird choice.
Yeah.
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 It's like I would have gone looking for like what Christmas books to buy for kids on that list.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really doesn't seem like it serves anyone to have fewer categories. Like I can't imagine like Goodreads is shouldering some cost of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
If
was
anything,
weird.
it seems better for
Amazon
them because
owned
again, like,
Goodreads, right? They're owned by
Yeah.
Amazon now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and especially where those are categories that it's like. I guess maybe you could argue that like if you have too many like fantasy romance and you're splitting those out, it's like, oh well, then more books are getting nominated and the nomination isn't as meaningful, which again, I'm not even that worried
But
about
it's
that.
the Goodreads Choice Awards.
It's the Goodreads Choice Awards, but it's also like you have the categories you eliminate are not like competing with any like, you know, it's not like some of those categories, like there's some overlap, like you might have overlap between debut and fantasy or like, you know, whatever. You don't have overlap really between like your middle grade and children's and your adult fantasy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like they're just completely different things.
We had Misty Kate asked which list is this Amazon. It is the Goodreads Choice Awards list. It's in the final round right now, where they have like all the different genres and the alleged best books of the year. I've liked all of the horror ones that I've read, but I know
I'm
horror
realizing-
wasn't hit like some of the other genres
Can
were.
we not see the full nominees anymore? Of like
Can
now
we
my
not?
like I haven't found it. I'm like, oh, like some of the books I would have read are gone now.
Yeah, I think as the rounds get down, then they don't list the original nominees.
That's very sad.
There's got to be a list of them somewhere.
Because like Delicious Monsters was on there, I forget for which category, and I voted for it, but it didn't continue through. So I was sad. Misty Kate, that's fair. Not to pay too much attention to Goodreads. I am using
Valid.
Storygraph as well, which I like, but I don't think they have
Storygraph.
any sort of
I have so much data in Goodreads that like
That's yeah.
You can pull it over.
I like specifically
Mine
found
pulled over poorly.
yeah.
Yeah.
The best books list is something I like utilize every year. Like my husband wants like that's where he builds his reading list for the next year of like what were the horror nominees the previous year, and like it's something I look forward to of like, oh, just catching me up in publishing in general. And I don't know if there's anywhere else that does it. I'm sure I could find like a TikToker for each genre kind of thing, but
Yeah. That was maybe a little bit of a departure from our chat topic, but
That was great. Just vibes for this.
just vibes, rules only vibes.
Just vibes.
Man, that is the energy we have had this year for sure.
This is
Just
the
vibes.
energy of the decade, I think.
Yeah,
Just
it's kind of like
vibes.
COVID happened, and ever since then we've been like vibes only.
Yeah. What was I trying to look at? Oh, I was gonna look at my Libby and see if I got any more of the horror books in.
We'll say, go, Megan. Mine's like a completely like.
No, go for it.
Oh, I will say one thing that I did earlier in the year that actually worked really well for me is like fairly soft writing goals. So like I was doing like I think it was like 300 or 400 words a day, which for me was like a pretty manageable pace. And like if that's still a lot for you, go lower. But like that was like a really nice and like it wasn't super pressureful, but it was like you write 300 words a day, like you're getting a chapter a week or something, and it's like enough to still see measurable progress without like super overwhelming your schedule or anything. And that's how I finished up the draft of the book that I finished at the beginning of the year, and really enjoyed that. And I kind of think I might do that again in 2024 with something I'm drafting, just because it was like a nice way to kind of, and it's like enough too where, because you know, if you like step away from a project for a while, then when you open up again, you're like, I have no memory of this place. And so it was like just keeping me enough in the book that like I could sit down and not have to totally, you know, revisit, trying to remember what I'd been doing before. But so yeah, that was just something that like at the time was like a really good fit for my writing needs. And I think that for me, so much of the past year or 2 years has been trying to figure out like what's actually going to work for me in terms of creating a writing practice.
Yeah. I think for me, I am more of like a write break, write, break kind of person.
Mhm.
But one of the things I've definitely struggled with as I'm trying to get to know my process better is figuring out when am I actually like needing to take a step back versus when am I just, being the normal amount of procrastinating about doing things. And I haven't found the answer this year. I'm just trying to listen, and if I feel like I need a break, going for it. But maybe next year I'll get a better handle on that.
Well, and I think part of it too is like it's natural to like if you are taking a break and you have something fun that's going to pull you out of that break, like oh Nano comes along and you're so excited about that, then you do Nano, or you something gets you excited about writing again, like you're going to end your break and work on the things again. And I think the past couple of years have been so like there's been so little to be excited about in writing that if you were taking a break, you just kept taking a break because there was nothing worth not taking a break. Unless you're me and I have other problems, but I think like I think that's something I saw for a lot of people is just like, yeah, I don't know what I'm writing for, and like I haven't found a spark. And when that spark is missing, it's like, yep, not working. So I think hopefully as things maybe continue to improve and morale continues to improve, then like you'll be naturally inclined to rebalance that like taking a break versus working on things because you'll have reasons to want to get things done.
Yeah, Tessa said, I'm finally realizing that there are no rules when it comes to writing process and that I can write in the way that is the best and easiest for me, even if it looks like pure chaos to other people. And that definitely resonates with me as well. And, like write every day was such an advice for so long. And even when you're like, that's not real, you think in your head, you're like, but for me, it should be.
Right.
Because I care a lot about writing. So for me, that should be the thing.
Someone is successful doing that, and I'm not successful. So maybe the successful person is right.
Maybe the trick is just making myself hate all my projects by making me look at them every day.
I think also, and this is something that like I know I've said on the channel, other people have said on the channel, but your writing process can vary for yourself. Like I said, the thing that I was doing at the beginning of the year where I was writing like just a few hundred words at a time, like was working fantastic for me at that point in time. That doesn't mean I'm going to write every book I write that way. Sometimes I need to do other things. And like it's always good to get to know your own writing process and get better at recognizing what's going to work for you. But even then you need to be flexible and like, oh no, this project or this time in my life, something else is going to be more conducive.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes that thing is just not writing at all, and that's fine. Like, yeah, I don't foresee this being my like next 12 months, but I do think there was something useful to being like, you know what? I don't have to write right now. Like everything's going to be the same when I come back to publishing. So, and sometimes I say that in like a pessimistic way, but right now I mean that in a positive way. Like it's still going to be there. And if you feel better while you are there, then you are better off. Puppy.
Oh, yawning puppy.
Tired puppy.
Mood.
Oh, lay down.
Technically, they're both.
Oh,
Two puppies.
always a boost for the chat.
Yes.
Don't say we never gave you nothing.
Yeah.
There are two dogs in this
We
chat.
rambled, but there were two dogs. Nicole said, read every day did a lot of harm. Instead, I try to think about my story every day, even if it's in a small way. Like my character would be far nicer in this situation than I am about to be.
I don't know. So we're coming up on the hour. Do we have any final thoughts?
We all made it this far. That's cool.
Yeah.
Made it
that
through
So
was-
another
good.
year.
There have been times I have doubted, but
Yeah.
whatever we do next, we made it this far.
I think I'm in a much better place at the end of this year than I was at the beginning of this year.
Good.
So,
Always a win.
yeah, that's the goal.
Next week, we are going to be having our last Nerd In of 2023. So hopefully you can join us for that. We'll be getting some stuff done, rounding out some projects, or just chatting. We'll see how it goes. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. However your writing journey is going, we're so glad that you have made us a part of it and that you keep showing up to chat about all things writing. It keeps us so inspired. So we're looking forward to seeing what the next year and onward holds. And we will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.